So I think that is a microcosm
Okay.
and probably the first line of what most humans on this earth are going to go through. I have been successful for 20 years doing it this way. And I think recruiters, they have been rewarded and promoted on how fast and how many I can fill. And I know how to do that because I'm a great sourcer and I'm a great networker and I find the people. It went from a Rolodex to LinkedIn, right? I mean, that's essentially where it went. Now it's being like, you don't have to be that anymore, right? I don't care if you can source. There's no reason for you to source. I don't need you to schedule. I need you to be a relationship manager. I want you to be the person who can land the best candidates. So I'm saying technology is not going to replace, not in my lifetime, the most important human interactions like closing a candidate or having a meeting with your manager. But what I say is technology gets you to that conversation faster and with better, more actionable data. So I'm saying, remember we used to say IQ and EQ?
Right.
IQ is done, right? Oh, these tools are your IQ. We have to build more empathy and understand humans better. The human is always going to do that better than a tool. Now, they'll get better at it, but it's never going to be the same. This tool is going to say, we think these are the 3 best candidates for you. It's never going to tell you which one to hire. It's always up to you to decide who's going to hire.
Hey, I'm Denise Chaffin, and I am your podcast host for Talking TA. And we are at Transform 2025. And I have with me Larry McAlister. And Larry and I go way back. And his current title is?
Head of Digital Transformation at Nutanix.
He is also speaking this afternoon here at Transform 2025, Architecting the Future-Ready Organization, HR as Digital Transformation Champion.
That's right.
Right. Let's jump into that first. Why the title?
So I'm moderating a panel where we have 3 people from different industries who are forward thinking. I think a lot of HR folks are still reticent to think about AI and are slow to jump ahead and think it's not my role. And we're trying to say today, it is your role. You can sit in HR and be a digital transformation leader. And the key is to learn more about it, come to conferences like this and understand where the market's going and be a leader. Because remember the old term Luddite back in the old days?
Yeah.
People who were afraid of technology. We're starting to see Luddites now because it's going so fast that people are shocked and stuck. I'm trying to unstick people today.
They're using that term all the whole 3 days that we've been here, using the word Luddite. When did digital transformation even become I hadn't even really heard that.
Yeah, it is a new title, and it's very unique to have it sit in HR.
Right.
Normally, it's at the enterprise level for the whole company. And it's funny, I got this job about a year ago. I've been almost there a year. And LinkedIn keeps telling me, your job title has been, there's 17% more of your job titles than there was last year, or 23%.
Really?
So it's becoming an increasing title. So the way my job works is I'm helping HR with their digital stack and making the tools we have already work. But the bigger role is across the enterprise with other people, the head of IT, the head of AI, to say, how are we going to approach AI for the entire company? What's our strategy? How are we going to bring things in? And how do we think about the enterprise solution and not all the different departments buying their own things? So putting a strategy together, which is needed and helps bring everyone along.
Okay, how does it help? I mean, so let's talk about that in more detail. I mean, what is the next step then for these people to kind of get on board?
So one of the things we did is ask all the different groups, we handed them, here's all the things you're paying for right now, all the tools you're paying for. So we have like 400 tools in the company. Wow. No governance. It's just everyone did what they wanted to do. It's a young company, 15 years old. So what we're trying to say is let's do enterprise-wide solutions so we can enable the entire company. So Microsoft Copilot is the next thing that we're doing. Very easy to bring in. It's already embedded. It's in your own instance. You don't have to worry about security. So that's one. The next one may be, how do we detect customer sentiment internally and externally? Everyone in the company can use that. So to be able to enable the whole company with enterprise-wide solution probably gets more adoption and more ROI, as opposed to having 9 different project management tools spread across the company, and you're not getting the same ROI out of those kind of things.
Which tools are automatically you're going to keep? I mean, hands down.
Yeah, so we just started a voice to video tool, Synthesia, I think it's called. So we piloted in HR, and you sort of type in what you want, and it turns into a video with great screenshots, and it goes from you have to go pay someone $30,000 to do it. You can do it yourself in 2 hours to put like a 10-minute video together.
Seriously?
It's amazing.
Okay, Synthesia.
Synthesia. So we started in HR, and then the engineering enablement team said, we want to do that too. So that's what we're trying to do, is find something that really works and then have the whole company use it. So that one has been amazing.
Okay, I'm curious though, why is this running under HR though?
The CPO at the time really felt HR should be a leader in digital transformation.
I guess I can see it though, because I mean, everybody at some point or another at the enterprise level is connected to HR.
Right.
So maybe that's.
And HR thinks about enablement and the employee more than maybe IT does.
Oh, sure.
IT thinks about, let me give you a good solution and turn it on, and they go back to their job. So I'm trying to help them say, let's make sure employees use it, understand it, and feel good about it.
Do you kind of feel like Santa Claus with the big red bag?
Well, once I get budget, I will. As soon as budget shows up, I'll feel like Santa Claus.
Because I mean, it's almost like, okay, you get this tool and you get this tool. Yeah.
But I think by next year, we listed like 10 or 12 enterprise-wide use cases that we all agree will be cool. So now we'll prioritize that and then start bringing them in over the couple of years. So Santa Claus is coming.
I was having a conversation yesterday with somebody who we were talking about, okay, if you can find an avenue, an area that needs a solution, a problem that needs a solution for TA, and you have that, and I think a lot of these companies are doing that. How do you, though, get that product started, and how do you integrate it with all of these other products, right? Like, and there's Aaron, who's now the employee referral program. Okay, that you've heard of. So how are we going to take all these different little companies then and layer them? And I know that you can integrate them with other tools and whatnot, especially like the big ATSs now. But gosh, how do you pick, and how do you know what's going to stick? And there's just so many.
Yeah, so what I've been saying is, if you're starting now to say, oh my God, there's so many tools out there, I need to go figure out what all the tools are, you're just going to drive yourself crazy. You'll never catch up.
Okay.
There's no way you're going to catch up to know what every tool is, because this has been the biggest VC event that Transform has done. There's VCs everywhere. They're having events. There's money flying around to bet on small companies. I mean, flying around. So to say I'm going to figure out every company and rank them, it's almost impossible. Yeah. So I say start with the macro. So read like a Burson report or a McKinsey report or a Deloitte report that says, here's where the market is going.
Oh,
right?
Good.
Here's where the market is going. And they may list a couple of tools, but just understand where the market is going. And then you have to start with your talent strategy and say, what are we really trying to do in my company? I think everyone's thinking about what's the tool, what's the technology. That's not where you start. If you start there, you're going to fail. Because remember the old baseball movie, Build It and They Will Come?
Oh, that's right.
They won't come.
Oh, yeah, Field of Dreams.
Yeah, Field of Dreams. They won't come. You can't just turn something on. People are busy. Yeah. So get a talent strategy, digest it, and here's how we're approaching talent acquisition or the employee experience. And what are my gaps? Or what are my problems, me, in the side of this company? So you know the macro, now you have to do your own micro. So my problem is we don't have a great employee referral program. Is there a tool out there? Then you can go find 10 tools that may do that. And that's where your focus is. Forget the universe. Just worry about the planets around you. Wow. And bring in we did in my last company, a tech parade where I had a bunch of people from different groups, manager, IT, HR, a business partner, and we built a ranking tool. Like, what are we looking for? What do we need? And then we brought 16 vendors in to give us demos, and we ranked each one of them. And I ended up bringing 7 different enterprise-wide tools in 2.5 years into that conference because it had such cross-functional.
Oh, there it is.
Because HR buys a tool and sends an email, here's what you got. It's just delete. Right. So it's got to be part of a larger structure. It's got to be part of a talent strategy, and you have to golden thread it all together. The technology drives the strategy. The technology doesn't start the strategy.
Oh, that is so important. Yeah, I remember purchasing a couple tools for sourcing and getting my team to use them. And I had 37 people. And I'm like, okay, there's only 5 of you using these tools? Because they want to go back and use what they're familiar with, right? So how are you getting people to implement and use these tools and become like a regular user?
Yeah, so I think that is a microcosm
Okay.
and probably the first line of what most humans on this earth are going to go through.
Okay.
I have been successful for 20 years doing it this way. And I think recruiters are the most,
Tunnel vision?
yeah, but they have been rewarded and promoted on how fast and how many I can fill. And I know how to do that because I'm a great sourcer and I'm a great networker and I find the people. It went from a Rolodex to LinkedIn, right? I mean, that's essentially where it went. Now it's being like, you don't have to be that anymore, right? I don't care if you can source. There's no reason for you to source. I don't need you to schedule. I need you to be a relationship manager. I want you to be the person who can land the best candidates. So I'm saying technology is not going to replace, not in my lifetime, the most important human interactions like closing a candidate or having a meeting with your manager. That it's not going to replace that. Maybe my grandson will be like, I never need to talk to anyone. I'll just have the bots do it all for me. But for now, what I say is technology gets you to that conversation faster and with better, more actionable data. So the tool is going to find all the candidates. They're going to rank the candidates. They're going to do video interviews and rank them again and give them hacker rank type thing. By the time you get to the candidate, you know everything about them. You know everything about them. You can go look at their digital interview and say, okay, I just care about what they talked when they said Python. Let me go see what they said there. So by the time you present them to the manager and have the human conversation, it's half the time and more accuracy. So we have to get recruiters to think sourcing, scheduling, ranking is not your job anymore. And it's hard for people who've been successful doing those 3 steps to give that up.
So I was reading your book.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The Power to Transform. Love it. One of the things that we're all like going, okay, what's going to happen to our jobs then, right? And you have in here, bots won't ruin the world. It seems like it, but they're not, right? Think about pilots, for example. They're not really flying the aircraft. I love this. Most of the time, right? Technology is. The pilot is just keeping an eye on it. And I thought, well,
That's a little scary too, right?
well, yeah, but you know what though? I used this
Oh, yeah.
at breakfast this morning, and this guy goes, "Ooh, I really like that analogy." And I said, "I do too," because one of the things that keeps coming up is, so what is our job going to be? It's going to be keeping an eye on things, right? But so let's break that down a little bit. How do you see then talent acquisition keeping an eye on things from a recruiting perspective?
So think about these tools. So it'll rank the person on questions that you agreed would be asked. And it'll say, here's how we think that the guy was saying, show your work. Here's why we gave this guy a high rating. A human's gonna look at that and say, nah, I don't think that rating really fits what I want it to be. Let me adjust the rating because this is what we really care about in this company. Once you adjust that rating, the tool now adjusts its rating for the rest of the candidates. So you're
That's right.
teaching the tool. So a human's going to have to do that because that they're not building that tool for you. They're building it for the world. And you have to keep tinkering with it, and make it better and better for your company. So that's a cool recruiter thing to do.
Right.
I'm partnering with the technology, just like the pilot makes sure is that, hey, we're about to come into turbulence.
Yes.
Right? That's all they're doing is telling you what's happening. They're not
Right.
flying the plane.
Right.
They're just making sure it lands.
Right.
So your job is to make sure it lands.
Okay, I love that. And it's a great analogy. And like I said, somebody at breakfast was like, oh, yeah, I like that. So, hey,
It works.
we'll start that. We'll start that little.
Start that trend.
Well, because people need something to hold on to then, to sink their teeth into. So what do you think some of the titles are going to be then for talent acquisition?
Yeah, I think it's sort of relationship manager. I still think the idea of knowing talent and cultivating talent, the tools are not in the near future going to focus on that.
Right.
They're like, give me 600 candidates, I'll give you the top 3 in 20 seconds.
Right.
Right? That's what they're thinking of. But you know me, and you brought me to this interview because we have a relationship, and
Right.
you would place me somewhere.
Right.
So that never goes away.
Right.
Knowing the market, knowing the talent, cultivating talent, building relationships with the hiring managers, because they're going to question, you're letting the tool do all of this. How do I trust it?
Right.
Your job is going to be to explain how the tool works and why you believe in it and why this is going to be faster. So we brought in Higher Brain, which does a job description in 5 minutes.
Okay.
And it's a way more accurate job description and 100% compliant. So one of the ways they came in to sell to us, this is where I got here, to sum it up. They said, give me 50 job descriptions. And they evaluated them all. None of them were the same. Different language, different words of like what culture means. And some of it didn't have the right legal language. Because what do recruiters do? Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And sometimes you paste it from 3 years ago and it's not accurate.
Right.
So it's 100% accurate. So our numbers, not even a year, people who looked at our job descriptions before we brought this in, so they opened a job, only 5% acted on it. Because it was like, it's not what I thought it was. Now it's up to 20%. 20% of the people who open our job descriptions are like, I'm in. I applied for this job because I read the job description and I was like, that's me.
Oh, that's right.
So yeah, so job descriptions just at the funnel. And then we're going to move from there. I think another way to think of recruiters is relationships inside the company for talent. So you bring them in, you don't have to forget about them anymore. Because what we're going to do is take the skills that we put from that hire brain, match people to that to hire them, and then bring those skills into the company to develop them. So the great example we've had is, say the person I really want is an IC4. I only have budget for an IC2. You bring in the IC2, you'll know what development they need to get to an IC4. They'll walk in the door with a development plan to get to an IC4. Because we know what the job description was for a 2, we know what the skills are for a 4, and we have an LXP, Skillsoft, which says here is the trainings you need or the experiences you need to get to an IC4.
And then once they do get to that, what software is going to go ahead then and download those job descriptions to them of potential positions they can apply for?
That's right, yeah. And then you can start being more, maybe recruiters are like, half my job is internal mobility.
There it is.
Right? Like, why not?
Well, in fact, I did a podcast with Trent Cotton. He talks about, in fact, one of the questions I wanted to ask everybody was about agentic AI, what we're going to do with it. Of course, we've already kind of like taken the first steps on this conversation. But he mentioned the bot or the agent that's going to be kind of doing the internal mobility piece, right? Taking positions as they come into the ATS, because there's already like a roadmap for each person. And what was that called? Hire Brain?
Hire Brain.
So let's say you've got Hire Brain then, and everybody that gets hired is going to fill out some sort of an assessment. They're going to have this career path to look forward to. And then as they reach those levels, then there's going to be a bot there or an agent that's going to be able to send these positions to them. But now I've had a couple people though who have said, oh, but I have a problem with that. Because what if that person has the skills on paper, but they don't have the right personality. They're not the right culture for it. What do we do with them?
That's your new recruiter role. That's what every recruiter can do. It's gonna be like, so that kind of stuff. So I'm saying, remember we used to say IQ and EQ?
Right.
IQ is done.
Right.
Right? All these tools are your IQ.
Right.
We have to build more empathy and understand humans better. The human is always going to do that better than a tool. Now they'll get better at it, but it's never going to be the same.
Right.
So, but again, about flying the plane, this tool is going to say, we think there's the 3 best candidates for you. It's never going to tell you which one to hire.
Yeah.
It's always up to you to decide who's going to hire. So I wrote my first ever agent business requirement literally this week. So we have for employees who have questions to HR, they just go in a Slack channel and say, I'll give you a great example. So in January, there was a problem. 400 employees didn't have their pharmacy benefits because of a file transfer error.
Okay.
So on New Year's Day, they're hitting Slack saying, I don't have my pharmacy benefits, what's wrong? So that's a panic moment. That's a very personal moment. My heart medicine isn't ready or whatever.
Ooh.
Right? So they're going into Slack and saying, I don't have my pharmacy. And so we're having a human on New Year's Day say, open a ticket, open a ticket, open a ticket. That is not a good employee experience.
No.
So I'm trying to solve that problem. So the agent requirements I just wrote say, the agent should be able to see those incoming questions, open the ticket for you, but say, hey, you know what? We just noticed several people having the same issue. It's not just you. And I've alerted HR to make this a top priority. If you're in the pharmacy and 1 minute you're saying, open a ticket, or they're saying, we know this is a problem and we've elevated this, your world is
big different.
It detects the trend. And then over time it says, this is the 9th pharmacy question we've had. Here's a trend there. Here's what we're predicting. Here's how you can fix this and open the ticket for you and tell you when this thing is going to be solved. Like, you take the human out of it because those are just rote questions.
Right.
Why does a human on New Year's Day have to be saying open a ticket, right? So that's where the agents are going to make a difference. A bot just takes the question and maybe tells you where to go find something or helps you answer the question. It doesn't detect. You're putting intelligence on the bot. That's what an agent is, basically.
What kind of training now? Because we talk about upskilling and reskilling. So what type of training are the recruiters going to need, though, to be able to handle all of these people coming to them internally for these positions? And you've got all of them with the skills, but maybe not the capabilities.
Yeah. So how do recruiters respond now? Like, why didn't I get the job?
Right.
Right. You're still going to have that skill, but you may have better data to explain to people. Like 3 other people who took this assessment scored higher than you.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I mean, so think of it as you're a partner with the technology. Recruiters have to be partners with the technology, understand how the scoring works, and fix if they think the scoring is not working properly, and then be able to translate that to an employee. Because what do they say now? Oh, if people are better qualified, or there's better. You're just sort of saying the same thing over. You may, if we want to, say this is what the data says. You know, 7 people outscored you on these 3 topics, and here's where you can develop. And now we know what the training could take to increase those. So you'll be able to be more proactive with the internal candidates.
So now that almost sounds like it's like a borderline HR position in a way.
It is. It's
So
relationships.
TA then is going to be kind of the first time intersecting with HR, really, on something
Yeah,
like that.
I think so. That's all I could say.
That's interesting.
Because TA is super frontline and done.
Right.
I think it's going to be more, in my mind,
Yeah.
not every company will do this, but shouldn't you understand all the talent, right? If you don't have to just understand all the talent outside, you should understand all the talent inside.
Right.
And these tools will help you do that. How am I going to learn 7,000 employees? You don't use, you just see what the data is telling you.
Well, and it's interesting because another person at breakfast this morning was talking about when you have an employee, and he said, my own personal experience, he said, I was recruited by a recruiter for my current company. He said, a year later, she sends me a note, hey, happy anniversary on your 1 year.
Smart.
He goes, how many recruiters are doing that? And I go, ooh, that's a very good point.
And that, you could train the bot to do that, but you as a human coming from you has way more power.
Yeah, yeah.
And I still think, well, what's happening to the candidate experience is, I don't even know how to get through.
Yeah.
And what I think candidates understand is, if we open any job, we have 1,000 applicants in 20 minutes. So there is a humanity that's coming out of it, because there's too many candidates per job.
Right.
That it's impossible to make a human connection, because the top 10 are going to get evaluated in a minute. So 900 people are just immediately discarded. And so the idea is, make sure these people stay in our database, and they're warm candidates. We mark them as warm, and we can always evaluate them even if they don't apply. Right? So this is a warm candidate. The bot will always go in and look at people who've applied to see if there's a match, even if they're not in the application
Right.
phase of it. We're not doing that as humans at this moment.
Right. So we could.
We could.
And that was another thing that came up yesterday was, why are we only sending out one message to candidates saying, hey, you're not qualified for this position? Okay, there was a medical device company, and the way it works is, when a candidate is rejected, when a candidate is first submitting their resume, and I've seen this with other companies too, there's a little question and a little radio button they can check if they want to be contacted about other positions with that company.
Oh, I like that.
Well, and a lot of companies need to do that, because then they get more information from that company that kind of gives them like some warm leads for them. So, but I think that on the back end of that, not just sending those things out, but also sending out regular responses to them, letting them know kind of where things are at with those positions.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think if I'm a recruiter, I can't look at 900 resumes. Right? So a good recruiter would look at the resume and say, this is good for that job, not the job they applied.
Right.
But you can't do that for 900
No.
candidates every day.
No.
So the tool should do that. It should, and I haven't seen anyone say they're doing that yet, but the technology is there.
Yeah.
So you should say, okay, they applied for this. Where do they rank? No, they don't rank. Now let me put them across every job we have open and see if they rank against anybody else.
Right.
That's how it should be working, right? So you apply to a job, you don't get ranked high enough, it's over. But smart technology should say, they could be good for something. It just happened in our company. Someone reached out to me and said, I'm applying for this job. I just went to the recruiter, all human, right? The recruiter called them and said, we don't think you're qualified for this job, but come interview for this job. If she doesn't get that one, she still feels like they tried something from me.
Right.
So that's a great candidate experience, even if they don't get it.
Right. And again, too, keeping on the track with internal mobility, the candidates then who aren't considered for a position based on, well, capability more than skills and culture fit, that type of thing. Yeah. What is going to be the next step for them then? Because they're going to say, I really want that job.
I think the next step is no one internally should ever have to apply for anything again. We should tap you because we opened this job before we even posted it. We looked for everyone's skills inside this company and think you're the right. So this idea of if you're applying for one job, you are really, what are the odds?
Right.
We're in Vegas, you're just rolling the dice, man. Right. But if the company is saying, every time we open a job, we scan the entire organization to see who fits. That's real internal mobility.
That's the more proactive approach.
Way proactive and smarter.
So who's doing that?
No one yet. I haven't seen anyone. No one's pitched it to me. Okay. Let's start a company.
I'm totally game. I'm totally.
I believe the technology is there. No one's pitching it yet.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. There's other little things too. Just as a recruiter or somebody who's been in this business for so long, I see things. I think that's missing that, or that's missing that.
Well, such a good point, because even these guys who pitch here, there's 100 of them. They say all the time, "I'm not really an HR guy. I just found a problem in the market, and I built this tool to solve it." So they're doing market research live with humans.
Right.
At the time. So because they're not done. A lot of these companies are 2 years old.
I know.
I know. They're just starting.
So this book came out, what, a year ago?
A year ago, yeah.
Okay.
Now you have stickers on there. It gives me a thrill, for sure.
Oh, yeah, because, well, there were some really cool stories that were really cool information in here. I thought it was interesting, like one here, see, management should never cede its strategic focus to a machine, even as generative AI is poised to have a faster and more dramatic impact on society than the internet. More on that later. So when I read that, I thought, oh my gosh, he's so right. And then also we talk about strategy here remains no matter what the technology is. So, and there's just so much, it's loaded with so much information. I thought, wow, this is actually interesting because this book was written a year ago, but a lot of
I could see the future.
Yeah, a lot of the content is so relevant right
This
now.
Evergreen book, because it surrounds how do you deal with technology, no matter what the technology is.
Right.
This is about how do you implement technology to fuel your strategy. That's what this book is about. Right. And I predicted Gen AI. I didn't predict agents, right? But it doesn't matter. It's still the same idea. Yeah. How do you bring it into your company?
Oh no, it was really quite amazing. The other thing I like too, 2 words that came up a lot: democratization and also enablement. So talk about that.
So most people go into a company when they're new and try to wow and build stuff for the top of the house. And they put all their effort at the top of it. I came in and said, I'm building stuff for everyone in this company. That's the democratization, right? Okay. I'm not focusing on the top line coaching or helping the execs. They're fine. They don't want it in a lot of cases. How do I make every employee feel like I have a future here? I was there for a year and then pandemic hit, right? So even more, how do I have a future here? So I talked about in this book, we said, our talent strategy is activate yourself, activate the team, activate the enterprise, and activate the future. That was all about you. It wasn't about the top of the house or the VPs. It's about you, every person who walks into this building. So activate yourself was have quarterly conversations with your manager to talk about not only how you're doing, but where do you want to go? So this is a great example of how technology enables that. So that's how I started, right? Have a quarterly conversation between you and your manager. That was the whole pitch. I
saw that part in there too.
Right. People clapped.
Yeah.
In the all hands meeting. Like, this looks great. Even though I had no technology or anything except the concept of what was going to happen. So from there, we said we brought in Better Up mobile coaching for everyone. So not for everyone at one time, but for anyone. My admin was able to get mobile coaching. She ended up getting promoted to be a program there. So that activate yourself started with have quarterly conversations with your boss. And now if you want, you can have coaching, and you have to want coaching. I always say, I've sold this from somebody else. It's like going to the gym, not like going to the spa. You got to put in the work. Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
And then we brought in Fuel 50, which is opportunity marketplace. So you can figure out, you can go get a gig, you can get training, go find a new job internally. You can see the next 3 jobs you could take in this company. So it opened your mind to, I said, I want you to open Fuel 50 and not LinkedIn. I want you to open Fuel 50 and not LinkedIn. I want you to find ways to go in here. So then they would say, okay, I think this is my next job. This is my skills gap. So when you went to that quarterly conversation now, like I said before, it's not going to replace the most important discussions, but it's going to get you the faster with more data. The employee walks in and says, here's the next job I want. Here's the skills. How am I going to get these skills? Where do you think I am? That conversation is so much more fruitful and partnering. Because what happens now if you don't have a tool like that? Hey, manager, I want to move up. Do you see any openings? They have no bullets in the gun to be able to help you.
Right.
So now it's like, I know my next job. May not be open at this moment, but I know where I want to go in this company. That's a whole different conversation.
And I love the fact that you're telling them use Fuel 50, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Instead of LinkedIn. I mean, and that's driving people then to use those new tools to experiment with them and see what they're able to do.
So this is where enablement comes in.
Okay.
So when we brought in Fuel 50, we brought in Better Up and some other tools, some external tools as well for TA. We had a career week where we had the CEO, the chief people officer, and myself kicking it off. And it was all 3 or 4 days of a week. And we kicked it off by saying, your growth in this company changes today. We now have this opportunity marketplace, and we want you to look at this tool and drive this tool because you'll know everything you need to know about growth in this company. And we're building sort of training in there and gigs and that kind of. And then we had the CEO of Fuel 50, the founder, come in and talk about it. She came in with Burson, and they talked about what careers look like. We brought in external speakers. So this whole week was about your career. So that was the first step of enablement. And we had the fastest adoption of that tool in Fuel 50's history at that moment. Because it wasn't a tool. It was a story.
Yeah.
It was an enablement. And then that's only the first step of enablement. So we had constant things all year long, multi-modality things. If you're just sending emails, you're losing the bat. We had live sessions once a quarter, I think, where we'd bring external people in to talk about their career. And the question that the employees love to hear is, tell me about a time when you made a mistake in your career. What did you do about it? People love that, right? Like, so the idea of career became parlance for the company because we had all these different ways for them to think about it.
Awesome. I heard a new question though to ask candidates now. What is the biggest risk that you've taken in your professional
career? On.
I know.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you mine. I was a journalism major. I wrote for the LA Times in college, and newspapers started closing all over the country. This is pre-internet. And then I realized when you're a sports writer, you work on weekends and nights. So I left and taught myself how to be a mutual fund broker.
Really?
That was my first sort of post-college job in a way. And then I taught myself with my friend how to understand balance sheets, and I became an auditor for NASDAQ. So I go into brokers and evaluate, see if they're cheating or if they're keeping their books right and that kind of thing. Yeah, then I went to Citibank
Okay.
in Las Vegas. And
You lived here?
I grew up here. So this is my hometown.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
So then at Citibank, I was in customer service. And then they moved me to operations to bring in these new tools to open the mail so we can get the money, the checks to Citibank credit cards out of your account and our account in 0 days. And then the CEO that we didn't call him CHROs in those days, the head of HR,
Right.
he was like Yoda. And
Yoda.
he was just talking like mysterious one sentence things. So when I was in that operation, first time I've ever been in operation, I was sort of in an email spat with another manager. Dumb, right? He brings me into his office and he said, some fights you win by never getting in the ring. And that was it. That was it. End of
Yoda. That's a Yoda.
That sticks in my head to this day. Yeah. So then he's like, I think you should lead. You're a natural leader. I think you should lead the first ever L&D job in this company, in this site. I'm like, great. He's like, 2 things. You have no team and you have no budget.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm running around just trying to build my own trainings, just on my own. And he brings me in his office. Everyone's like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah.
No one's connected to me. I'm just making stuff up. And he brings me in his office and he says, you're running so fast, you're going to get to the finish line and no one's going to be there to clap for you.
Oh my God.
End of meeting.
Oh my God.
That's in my head 30 years later.
Wow.
So from that moment on, and I do it to this day, it's in the book. I call it the Business Advisory Group, where I started bringing in leaders to help me build these trainings and deliver them. So I've kept that for my whole life. As soon as you come into a company, you bring in the top, what I call them like seasoned, respected, and skeptical.
And skeptical?
skeptical.
Okay.
So they're people who get looked up to, but they're not yes people,
Right.
right? They're like, why are we doing this? So you bring them in all through building the 4 quadrants. What do you think? Will this work for you? What do you think? So 1, you get their buy-in. 2, they become champions for you, and they influence their organization. Hey, you want to bring some people on your team to help us pilot this? And then when you go in to the ELT and ask for budget, you have those 12 names on your slides.
Okay.
So me and these 12 people want money. So it's like, they're like, oh, these guys are already all behind this?
Yeah.
Yep. I think one of the chapters in there, I got $1 million in 30 minutes. I didn't get the money. The company approved this process.
Well, there was something else that you just said, though, that reminded me of another part of the book, though, about the executor and the futurist. So is that then how you kind of developed that knack then for being able to partner with somebody like Deborah?
Yeah.
And the two of you, like you said in the book, you guys have such different philosophies and just the way you looked at things. You guys could look at a blue spot on the floor and find something different about it, right?
Yes.
So, but you found this cohesive relationship because she became the executor and you became the futurist, right?
Yeah, and I think the best part was she was a supporter and air cover for me.
Well,
She believed in my vision. It was like, I'll fight for you, and would pick holes in my stuff and I would fix it. So it was like, really, there's no way I could get everything done if we didn't have that relationship.
yeah, but it started with Yoda.
It did.
She's
my new Yoda. But back to that executor futurist. So my number one, if you do a strength finder, my number one strength is futurist.
Right,
But you can't just be a futurist without execution.
right.
So I said my 3 leadership traits are aspiration. Hey, look, this is where we want to go. Everyone see where we want to go? Then inspiration. Don't you want to go there?
Yeah.
And then execution. Because if you don't have the execution of landing these technology tools or the talent strategy, you're just talking. You're just saying words. If you can't make good on that promise, quarter over quarter, you're just talking. So those 3 things are my strengths.
That's awesome. I love it. And they are.
We have like 400 recs open right now or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So we are on the hook to bring 400 great people into the company. They're going to make an impact to the bottom line. Like, that's super valuable. Like, TA should be treated better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but the thing is that I think it's kind of starting to come together now, and especially with AI taking over some of these other roles. But when you get down to the negotiations we're talking about, I mean, oh my gosh, I started out in the agency business.
Yeah.
And so it was always, who's the closer? Who's a closer, right? So it wasn't just a matter of getting the candidates. It was a matter of closing the candidates.
Sure.
It was amazing, though, how I could work with the director of talent acquisition and to close this candidate because she knew things about the company's benefits that I didn't know. So there's that piece of it too. And I think that was one area that was always missing for talent acquisition because we were the ones pushing and pushing, yet HR was always trying to keep us kind of in our corner. But now it's like we have to combine these two. So I love the fact that TA and human resources is and TM has all
primarily those 2 for sure, with the business partners sort of connecting. But it's going to be, I mean, I ran both for 2 companies in a row.
Right.
With the objective of why aren't these 2 things more seamless to
Right.
And now with this technology, we can make it come true.
And make it come true. Oh, that is like so amazing. And then the other piece of it too is on the sourcing side. So as far as the candidates being sourced by, and candidates will just have to get used to that. I mean, I think that's a hard transition for candidates. They feel ghosted. They feel they're licking their wounds all the time because they're not getting, and I don't blame them. Feeling like left behind. So one of the questions I have asked all my guests for this conference is, when it comes to the candidate experience, what can HR and TA do collectively together to improve the processes?
So I think we hit on it a little bit earlier. I think the problem statement is there are more candidates than TA can handle.
Right.
So what do? You know you're going to have 900 candidates who are not going to fit.
Right.
So what do you do for those 900 here? So I thought you had a good idea. You said earlier, like, do you want to hear about different jobs?
Right.
Another one is, like we were saying earlier, take that candidate and run them through all the jobs and say,
I love that idea.
right? I mean, give them another shot. If you were to go back and say, Here's another job we think you should look at. I'm not promising you're getting it, but here's another reason. Are you interested? Then you feel like you're part of the process. The problem is, I guess the problem is, what do you do with 900 candidates you know are not going to get the job? What do you do with those people? And if it's just an email, you're not qualified. And I'm talking to people who've been laid off for months who just feel broken down. They're like this. And I tell them, when people come to me for advice on what should I do, I was like, interviewing and applying for jobs is a soul-sucking experience. And it's not you, it's them.
Yeah.
It's not you, candidate, it's the companies.
Right.
So you have to be able to, you can only look for a job an hour a day.
Right.
If you're beating yourself up that you're not constantly looking for a job all day, there's not enough jobs for you to look. It's 1 hour a day.
Right.
So the things you can do is build your brand, get connected to headhunters so you have someone else
Right.
looking for you.
Yeah.
Apply when you can, but know it's a shot in the dark.
Okay, I love that though. Apply to, because recruiters do actually, when people send me their resumes randomly, I actually take time to look at those because I'm not looking through 900 resumes for a particular spot. So I love that idea. That's a great suggestion.
Look, you can only look an hour a day. Let someone else look another hour a day for you.
Right.
And even if you're at a low level, there are people think you have to be an executive to have a headhunter. There are headhunters that go all levels, right?
Exactly.
And the next part is physical and emotional health. So, all right, you're off for work. Do not feel guilty that you're taking a walk or going to the gym or doing yoga, right? And don't beat yourself up. It's not your fault that you're not landing these jobs.
Right.
There's too many applicants for these jobs. And it's an emotional thing to go through, and you have to keep yourself healthy.
Oh, definitely. I know. I see people posting on LinkedIn all the time. They're just so frustrated. And I mean, I feel for them because they're posting their experiences and how they feel about it. I'm sure you've seen it too, right?
I hear it.
Yeah.
Like I get on texts and calls and they're like, this sucks.
I know.
And so one, I think we have to accept that it's so much easier to apply to jobs now than there ever was, that there's too many candidates for jobs.
Yeah.
Like we don't even really have to post a job anymore. We can just use our searches to go find in the market.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe, okay, you've just hit on something there. Maybe posting jobs is just not the way to go. And maybe that's where we have to kind of get back to how are we going to source candidates without posting jobs?
Because these tools we use, Find Them.
Yeah.
There's several, Find Them, and they go in the market and say, here's people who match.
Right.
I mean, it's just.
But seriously, Larry, that could be the answer.
It could.
To not post jobs.
We'd have to think about how we keep our brand going without showing jobs, but is our brand hurting because people are like, you're not even paying attention to me, man.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the other piece of it, though, is it depends on the position. So if it's a one-off position, don't post it. If it's a position where you need...
Like an agri, like we're always going to be looking for engineers. Right. I think that's a good idea.
God, we're solving all these problems right here. Oh my gosh, this has been a great conversation. Anything you want to share? Any last minute? I know I didn't even get to hit on all the points of your book.
For HR, you are a technologist. You are a transformationalist. Lead the way. Don't wait for it to come to you. Don't be a Luddite.
Don't be a Luddite. Don't be a Luddite. I love that. Thank you, Larry.
Yeah.
It's so great to speak with you. To see you. I know.